So thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Pleasure.
I thought we would kick it off. I remember moving to Australia in 1986. The Dili massacre happened in 1991. The world's attention finally shifted to Timor-Leste, but you were 25 years in exile, and then suddenly in 96, 97, we saw a new nation emerging. Can you take us back 20 years and just set the stage of what that felt like and some of the anecdotes from that time?
Many of you here probably know about Timor-Leste, about East Timor, but many more, even today, around the world wouldn't know. When I left my country, December 4, 1975, I went to New York and had never been to any big city in my life, had never been to New York, had never seen snow in my life. And my assignment was to go and address the UN Security Council. And my first meeting was actually with the then permanent representative, ambassador of the Soviet Union, Yakov Malik. It was an afternoon, soon after lunch. And I was talking to him, and I noticed he was asleep. And because he was asleep, I was polite. I talked even more softly so I wouldn't wake him up. But his advisor motioned to me that I should keep talking. So I kept talking. And when he woke up, he said, "We will support you." Well, I presume he was listening. He was not actually sleeping. Maybe his eyes were closed. But what was, I managed to secure a very rare, unanimous Security Council resolution on the situation in my country. It was unanimous, all parts. But that was also my first lesson, introduction to international organized hypocrisy. Because some of the countries that voted on that resolution were the same ones continuing to provide weapons to the Suharto regime in Indonesia, enabling it to continue the occupation of Timor-Leste. Uphill battle. Back then we didn't have social media, we didn't have even global television like CNN and BBC Global. So it was extremely difficult to inform and communicate with people. But I had an assignment, a mission entrusted to me. My responsibility was to educate the world, educate people, change policies. And I came to know the US Congress like very few people, like very few Americans. I traveled across the US, and sometimes I would talk to meetings of 2 people, 5 people. But then came 1996, the Nobel Peace Prize, doors open, more awareness about Timor-Leste, and then also changes in Indonesia. We would not be free without Indonesian people themselves bringing about changes in Indonesia. So a confluence of factors that led us to achieve independence and freedom. Lesson is, do not lose hope, have faith, stay focused, do not get distracted by your emotions, by suffering, by your frustrations. You have an assignment, you have a mission to achieve a particular goal. You study your adversary's weaknesses, its strengths, look at what is available to you to advance the cause. But the cause is one, and that's freedom. So you do everything. And never succumb to anger, never succumb to violence.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, you won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1996. We are in 2018. We have 1,000 young leaders that you've just given some wonderful advice to. What do you think is the most important battle that they have to fight for their generation?
to
What do you think is the most important battle that our young people
Yeah.
have to fight for their generation?
let me be provocative to you young people,
Okay.
because I have been to numerous conferences and I hear these great speeches about the youth. They are the future. Obviously, you are the future. If you are 15 years old today, 20 years old today, tomorrow you'll be 30, you'll be 10 years from now. So what? And I was young also, and
You're still young.
so, and when we hear these great politically correct speeches, the future belongs to the young. And let me tell you, I wonder how many of you, when you have finished your degrees, after this meeting, and many other meetings you might be attending, you will not have gone off to Wall Street to work in some of the biggest banks, insurance companies, and you forgot all about sustainable development. You forgot all about your brothers and sisters in Africa, Asia, or whatever. I wonder how many of you stay committed to helping the rest of the world. So, how, yeah.
No, I think it's terrific you're being provocative, and I would actually invite you to meet our talents afterwards as well. I think they would love to meet, and I would ask you to judge for yourself, because I think
Yes.
those are great words for them to sort of take.
The sustainable goals. The UN is great in issuing proclamations. We
Yes.
had the Sustainable Development Goals, the MDGs,
Yes.
supposed to have accomplished in 2015, and then, as if everything had been resolved, let's go for the next phase, Sustainable Development Goals. There you have two issues. One, national ownership and national leadership. Second, you have to have international partnership to assist those countries that are fragile, post-conflict, poor countries, to attain those goals. But the reality is, since 2008, 2009 financial economic crisis, most of the OECD countries, most of the rich industrialized countries have obliterated ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, for different reasons. Their own challenges back home, social, political, economic challenge because of the crisis, and then you have the influx of millions of refugees into Europe. Some of the European countries cease to be bilateral donors. Some continue to provide assistance through European Union, for instance, but others literally cease to be bilateral donors. So how are we, fragile states, are going to be able to execute the SDGs if not only we don't have a know-how, we have problems of human resources, all of that, but we don't have the financial means. I'm fascinated by this conference. I have seen some of the innovative
Ideas.
and particularly this one today, on the making use of waste. Please, if you can resolve this problem in Nigeria, which I'm familiar with, I've been there before in recent years, well, you probably can help us much more quickly with our own waste garbage in Timor-Leste. So please come and help me resolve it. Please come to my country. Let me give you my email. Okay. Orange Reefs. Orange, like, orange. Reefs, like a coral reef. It's one word. Orange Reefs, Orange Reefs at gmail.com. Please write to me. Bring your ideas to help my people. Like, for instance, the president of Singapore spoke earlier. She said 40 years ago, she would go outside the building to fetch water.
Yeah.
But at least there is water nearby that you fetch water. In some of the villages in my country I've been to, there is not even water to the community. So they have to walk miles and miles away to fetch water. So that's today. So please come and help us addressing the issues of clean water for our community. So this is the challenge to you, to invitation to you, to to deliver on your romantic promises.
Well, the wonderful thing is we actually have a team for water right here, don't we? So I think they will all be emailing you.
We'll be flooded. Since you're in the mood to be so open, let me change the questions around. I know you've been following the Korean discussions, and you are a great student of international politics. Do you have any advice for the two leaders that will be? Sorry, did I do that in public? Sorry, that will be coming.
That will be in Singapore in less than a week.
Well, I have no advice. Who am I to give advice to the two presidents? Recently I wrote an opinion piece for thehill.com, and primarily focusing on the angle of who should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, because in the US, they all became hysterical about the Nobel Peace Prize for President Trump.
Yes.
He might deserve, might not. I don't give an opinion on that. In my article, I said, in the dilemma, assuming the peace process goes ahead and bring some fruits, I leave it to the Nobel Committee in Oslo, 5 wise men and women, to make the decision whether to give to President Moon of South Korea, whether to give to President Moon and Kim Jong-un, or to give to Kim Jong-un and the President of the United States, or give to all three. I leave it to them to decide. My point is only to say, the Nobel Committee in the past, even though they are the wisest people in the world, they realize they have made mistakes. In the past, they didn't give to Mahatma Gandhi. They waited too long. Mahatma Gandhi passed away.
Yes.
The biggest regret of the Nobel Committee was that it was not given to Mahatma Gandhi. Then, huge controversy when they gave to Kissinger over the peace accord to end the war in Vietnam. And then some think they gave to Barack Obama too soon.
Mm-hmm.
So they will be extra cautious in waiving the Korean dialogue. So that's from the angle of the Nobel Peace Prize. But in every conflict, there are at least two parties. There are some conflicts that there are 100 parties to it, like Syria. So if you're going to, my view, and I'm very biased, but positively biased, if anyone deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, would be the president of South Korea, President Moon.
Oh.
He's the one actually mediating between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. When President Trump announced termination, no more the conversation in Singapore, it was President Moon who salvaged this and restarted the process. But he cannot succeed. President Moon cannot succeed on his own. A, he has to work with his counterpart in the North. B, he has to engage President Trump. But he also has to engage China. And so, in reality, if you want to study the Korean Peninsula case, well, follow President Moon's movements. And I have to say, I'm the one who, way back in 2001, I nominated President Moon's predecessor, late Kim Dae-jung, to the Nobel Peace Prize. I nominated him not so much for the sunshine policy, because all started with Kim Dae-jung when he first went to the North, crossed DMZ, and met with Kim Jong-il, the father of current president. I nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, not so much for that gesture, one-off event, but for the 30 years of Kim Dae-jung's life in struggling for democracy, for peace in Asia and in particular in Korea. So I'm very pleased to have done that when he was alive. He passed away. Kim Dae-jun's successor was Roh Moo-hyun. He continued the dialogue with the North, but then he left office and died in tragic circumstances. So it's not like a new phenomenon, a new effort in Korea. This has started way back almost 20 years ago with Kim Dae-jun. Will it succeed? I believe it will, but not immediately. So I hope President Trump, the Chinese, and South Korea will work together and bring about the attitude, mindset changes in the North. You have to understand why they want nuclear weapons. It's self-preservation. If they are assured that there will be no regime change by force, by coercion, then they might succeed in persuading North Korea to denuclearize. But this takes a long time, and it's not by simple tweeting, pronouncements, nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize, etc., etc. Sorry, I think it was a too long answer.
No, not at
Simple.
all.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Thank you.
We thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. Can we have a round of applause, please, for Dr.
Thank you.
José Ramos?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
José Ramos-Horta, everyone. It's not
One
often
more
we get
time.
to engage in this kind of dialogue.
Yes, shall we?
The Unleash Innovation process is divided in 5 phases. The main idea is to create solutions for real problems, real opportunities, through a focus on need, context, behavior, and emotion of people that the solution will serve. Ensuring that you're solving the real problem is critical to make sure that you come up with a solution that people can adopt and that actually will have a real impact on people's life.
When you show up at the location of your theme, you will be greeted by a facilitation team. They will be your guides through the journey of the next 5 days. We do hope that this process will inspire you and the teams that you're working with